Hello class, I am going today to discuss another actors of world politics. As we know, we are in chapter 4 and we are in week 4 as well. Chapter 4 is about foreign policy for nation state and what does it drive that foreign policy. And the best part for that is to analyze and explain the meaning of the bureaucratic model. So when we discuss nation state, it's all the time is good to understand what's make nation state behavior worth to study. As we have learned in the past, we have three levels of analysis to understand the foreign policy of nation state. The first one is the global level, the second one the domestic level, and the third one is the individual level. So before we go to each level, what do we mean with nation state? We are talking about people, community, lives under the rules of government within certain geographic boundary. That government enjoys sovereignty and manage people's affair. So nation state could be understood from the following pillars. First, territory. Second, sovereignty. Third, government. And fourth, population. Now, the three levels are important to understand the foreign policy. We have covered the meaning for each one in chapter 1 and chapter 2 and chapter 3. Now, we will take these three levels into practice. We take the global level and we explain in that part the surrounding environments of the national boundaries. In the second level, we discuss the characteristics of the domestic affairs of that nation, from economic perspective, military perspective, and also from bureaucratic perspective. And finally, we looked at the national leadership, and this is the leadership or the leaders of the nation. When we discuss the surrounding environments, the global system, we have to understand what kind of polar system do we have. Unipolar, that's mean one nation state is dominate the whole globe. And that's what we have now when we call it the United States of America. Bipolar system, it's the Cold War condition. The Russian and the American were dominating the global affairs. Multipolar system is the conditions before World War I when we had European rivalry around the world. We go for the geostrategic position for each nation. In this case, we have two theories. One has to do with the power of the sea, that's for Mahan, and the other one has to do with the interest of the nation to protect its rimland, and that's what we call it Mackinder theory. Once we go to the domestic level for each nation, it's important to see the military power, the economic power, the power of government, and how bureaucracy work. So I'm going to go step by step for each part. In the military power, nation state is divided into a great power where it has a great national interest and a global influence like the US, Russia, China. Middle power, those countries aren't powerful globally, but they have somehow regional influence like South Korea, Japan, Iran, and Egypt. And minor power, those countries are very weak and all the time they love to have alliance with either regional power or great power like Kuwait and Singapore. The economic conditions of this nation, if it's a wealthy nation, it's part of the first world. If it's still struggling, it's part of the second world. If it's very poor and relies on foreign aids, that's a third world. Now, this is the description was used during the Cold War. After that, we start to have the global north, the global south, and the global east. And I think in chapter 2, I give a great explanations for each one. Types of government, if it's democracy or if it's authoritarian system. Democracy all the time practice oversights and the rules of the law. So leaders are very limited with their powers. In autocratic system, it's the opposite. And leaders cannot be subjected to oversight by the people. The bureaucratic politics, this is the most important part. And our textbook gives a good example on page 83 how that bureaucratic governing institution shapes the politics and the decisions to go with Iraq war and Afghanistan war. So to explain the rational, to explain the bureaucratic model, we should look also for the leaders of the nation. Some leaders are very, very emotional and realistic, and they think from national perspective. Some rational. I took two examples. One from the Truman administration when he decided to stop the expansions of the Soviet Union and communism, and he created that doctrine in his name. The other one, a Russian leader by name Brezhnev doctrines, late 60s, when he said any Eastern European state tries to get out of the Warsaw Pact or the dominations of the Russian Empire, war is absolutely relevant to take action against them. The other important part with the leadership level in that case is the ability of influencing the decisions making, plus taking advantage from the surrounding environments for their own benefits. We call this political efficacy. Like, what if they are dead during the Great Depression? And what did he do when the Japanese attacked the United States? Now, to go further with the decisions making, it's the most important part is the rational choice. World leaders or government agencies must create their decisions based on rational thinking. And that's some amount of costs and benefits and with set up goals must play part with the decisions making. So I put all those things for you in the following chart. First, what is the problem and why the problem is very serious? What are the goals that could reduce that problem or we could achieve if we ever interact with that problem? And to evaluate our action, we ask about the cost and the benefit. Then finally, we make up our mind. So I'm going to put this in easier way as well. Inside the government of the United States, we have some agencies. We call them departments. We call them programs. We call them an institution. And all of them compete with each other with their own interest. For example, Department of Defense thinks about war. Office of Management and Budget thinks about the budget. Vice President thinks and tries to help the President and what if. National Security Council recommend the President what's supposed to do for the upcoming crisis. National Intelligence Agency, these are military officers who want to gather military information elsewhere in the world. State Department, those are the people who wants to play at the diplomatic level, at the global level, to promote the president's decisions, whether he decided to go to war or to go with different negotiation. So the presidency in the United States, based on the bureaucratic model, is under influence and competitions between all those agencies. When all those agencies concluded their report, we put them back into this kind of form to define the problem. Take, for example, North Korea. It's an autocratic regime, and there is possibility to have war, or that nation might collapse, or that nation might cause more problems for our allies. If we ever decided to go to war, how much will cost us in terms of military? So much money, people on the ground. And who are the alliance that will give us the support in United Nations and at the regional level? And what is the domestic level will tell us if the people mad at us? Popular rage. What is the benefit from going to war with North Korea? Well, we'll create stability in Northeast Asia and will ensure democracy function there, and our allies will never be under threat. And when we say our allies will never be under threat, we will never be our threat with our interest as well. So the option is to go to war, but the cost is still unclear. So we have to go back. If we ever decide to go to war, should we go by ourselves or should we have China on our side, South Korea on our side, Japan on our side? Therefore, if we ever find those allies to us, we will go to war with North Korea. But North Korea has a nuke. we have a nuke either. So we have to make sure they are not going to use their nuke ahead of time. So war is the best option. Otherwise, we stay with diplomatic sanction. War doesn't mean a physical confrontation. It does mean also economic sanction, supporting other groups who could destabilize the North Korean or keeping isolating North Korea. So war is about move more than guns as well. So we have concluded chapter 4, and I hope you guys you have enough feedback for that or a question. And if you do, please go back to the contact instructor sections and post your question, and I will get back to you as well. Thank you.